Chapter 35. We have a tiny problem. Rendezvous spot. The George Washington statue in the public garden. Hearthstone, Blitzen, and Simra were already there, along with another old friend who happened to be an 8-legged horse. "Stanley!" I said. The stallion whinnied and nuzzled me. He nodded toward the statue of George Washington on his charger as if to say, "Can you believe this dude? He ain't so great. His horse only has 4 legs." The first time I'd met Stanley, we hurtled off a Jotunheim cliff together, headed for a giant's fortress. I was glad to see the horse again, but I had a bad feeling we were about to take part in the sequel, Cliff Hurtling the Second, The Rise of Big Boy. I stroked Stanley's muzzle, wishing I had a carrot for him. All I had was chocolate and kibba. I didn't think either would be good for an 8-legged horse. "Did you summon him?" I asked Hearthstone. "How are you still conscious?" The first time Hearth used Iwas, the transportation runestone, he collapsed and giggled about washing machines for a half an hour. Hearth shrugged, though I detected a little pride in his expression. He looked better today, after spending the night in a tanning bed. His black jeans and jacket were freshly cleaned, and he had a familiar candy-striped scarf around his neck. "Easier now," he signed. "I can do 2, maybe 3 runes in a row before I collapse." "Wow. What did he say?" Alex asked. I translated. "Just 2 or 3? Alex asked. "I mean, no offense, but that doesn't sound like a lot." "It is," I said. "Using 1 rune is like the hardest workout you've ever done. Imagine an hour of non-stop sprinting." "Yeah, I don't really work out, so..." Blitzen cleared his throat. "Magnus? Who's your friend?" "Sorry, this is Alex Fierro. Blitzen, Hearthstone. Alex is our newest energy." Blitzen was wearing his pith helmet, so it was difficult to see his expression through the gauze netting. However, I was pretty sure he was grinning in delight. "You're another child of Loki." "Oh, wasn't grinning in delight. You're another child of Loki," he said. "Yep," Alex said. "I promise I won't kill you." For Alex, that was a pretty big concession, but Hearth and Blitz didn't seem to know what to make of her. Simra gave me a dry smile. "What?" I demanded. "Nothing." She was wearing her school uniform, which I thought was pretty optimistic. Like, hey, I'll just zip over to Jotunheim and be back in time for 3rd period government. "Where have you 2 been?" "You didn't come from the direction of Valhalla." I explained about our excursion to Randolph's and the photo and the wedding invitation that were now in my backpack. Sam frowned. "You think this waterfall is the way to Thrym's fortress?" "Maybe," I said. "Or at least it might be 2 days from now. If we know that in advance, we might be able to use that info." "How?" Hearth signed. I'm not sure yet." Blitzen grunted. "I suppose it's possible. Earth giants can manipulate solid rock even better than dwarfs can. They can definitely shift their front doors around. Also," he shook his head in disgust, "their fortresses are almost impossible to break into. Tunneling, explosive, blasts of godly power, none of that will work. Believe me, Dice has tried." "Dice?" I asked. He looked at me like I was a moron. The Dwarven Infantry Corps of Engineers? What else would it stand for? Anyway, with Earth Giants, you have to use the main entrance. But even if your uncle knew where it would be on the wedding day, why would he share that information? This is the man who stabbed me in the gut. I didn't need the reminder. I saw the scene every time I closed my eyes. I also didn't have a good answer for him. But Alex intervened. "Shouldn't we get going?" Sam nodded. "You're right. Stanley will only stay summoned for a few minutes. He prefers no more than 3 passengers, so I figured I would fly and carry Hearthstone. Magnus, how about you? Alex and Blitz take our horse friend?" Blitzen shifted uneasily in his navy 3-piece suit. Maybe he was thinking how badly he and Alex would clash, sitting next to each other on a horse. "It's okay," Hearthstone signed to him. "Be safe." "Ugh, all right." Blitz glanced at me. "But I've got dibs on the front." "Is that called shotgun on a horse?" Stanley whinnied and stomped. I don't think he liked shotgun and horse being used in the same sentence. I handed Sam the Skofnug sword. Blitzen gave her the Skofnug stone. We figured since they were her supposed bride price, she should have the right to carry them. She wouldn't be able to draw the sword because of its enchantments, but at least she could brain people with the stone if the need arose. Stanley allowed us to climb aboard, Blitzen first, Alex in the middle, me in the back, or as I like to think of it, the seat from which you will fall off and die in the case of rapid ascent. I was afraid that If I held on to Alex, she might cut off my head or turn me into a giant lizard or bite me or something. But she grabbed my wrists and put them around her waist. I'm not fragile, and I'm not contagious. I didn't say anything. Shut up. Shutting up. She smelled of clay, like the pottery studio in her suite. She also had a tiny tattoo I hadn't noticed before on the nape of her neck. Curled double serpents of Loki. When I realized what I was looking at, my stomach took a preemptive drop off a cliff, but I didn't have much time to process the tattoo's significance. Sam said, "See you in Jotunheim." She grabbed Hearthstone's arm, and the two of them vanished in a flash of golden light. Stanley wasn't quite so understated. He galloped toward Arlington Street, jumped the park fence, and charged straight toward the Taj Hotel. A moment before we would have hit the wall, Stanley went airborne. The hotel's marble facade dissolved into a bank of fog, and Stanley did a 360 barrel roll right through it, somehow managing not to lose us. His hooves touched the ground again, and we were charging through a forested ravine, mountains looming on either side. Snow-covered pines towered above us. Gunmetal gray clouds hung low and heavy. My breath turned to steam. I had time to think, "Hey, we're in Jotunheim," before Blitzen yelled, "Duck!" The next millisecond demonstrated how much faster I could think than react. At first, I thought Blitz had spotted an actual duck. Blitzen likes ducks. Then I realized he was telling me to get down, which was hard to do when you're the last in a line of 3 people on horseback. Then I saw a large tree branch hanging directly in our path. I realized Stanley was going to run right under it at full speed. Even if the branch had been properly labeled as low clearance, Stanley couldn't read. Smack! I found myself flat on my back in the snow. Above me, pine branches swayed in fuzzy technicolor. My teeth ached. I managed to sit up. My vision cleared, and I spotted Alex a few feet away, curled up and groaning in a pile of pine needles. Blitzen staggered around, looking for his pith helmet. Fortunately, Jotunheim light wasn't strong enough to petrify dwarves, or he would have already been turned to stone. As for our intrepid ride, Stanley, he was gone. A trail of hoofprints continued under the tree branch and into the woods for as far as I could see. Maybe he'd reached the end of his summoning time and vanished. Or maybe he'd gotten caught up in the joy of running and wouldn't realize he'd left us behind for another 20 miles. Blitzen snatched his pith helmet out of the snow. Stupid horse. That was rude. I helped Alex to her feet. A nasty-looking cut zigzagged across her forehead, like a squiggly red mouth. "You're bleeding," I said. "I can fix that." She swatted away my hand. "I'm fine, Dr. House, but thanks for the diagnosis." She turned unsteadily, scanning the forest. "Where are we?" "More importantly," Blitz said, "where are the others?" Sam and Hearthstone were nowhere to be seen. I only hoped Sam was better at avoiding obstacles than Stanley was. I scowled at the tree branch we'd run into. I wondered if I could get Jack to chop it down before the next group of poor schmucks rode through here. But there was something strange about its texture. Instead of the usual bark pattern, it consisted of cross-hatched gray fiber. It didn't taper to a point, but instead curved down to the ground, where it snaked across the snow. Not a branch, then, more like a huge cable. The top of the cable wound into the trees and disappeared into the clouds. "What is that thing?" I said. "It's not a tree." To our left, a dark looming shape I'd taken for mountains shifted and rumbled. I realized with bladder-twisting uncertainty that it wasn't a mountain. It was the largest giant I'd ever seen, sitting next to us. "No, indeed," his voice boomed. "That is my shoestring." How could I not notice a giant that big? Well, if you didn't know what you were looking at, he was simply too large to understand. His hiking boots were foothills, his bent knees were mountain peaks. His dark gray bowling shirt blended with the sky, with his fluffy white beard looked like the bank of snow clouds. Even sitting down, the giant's gleaming eyes were so far up they looked like blimps or moons. "Hello, little ones." The giant's voice was deep enough to liquefy soft substances, like my eyeballs, for instance. "You should watch where you're going." He tucked in his right foot. The tree branch/shoelace we'd smacked into slithered through the pines, uprooting bushes, snapping branches, and scattering terrified woodland creatures. A 12-point buck leapt out of nowhere and almost ran over Blitzen. The giant leaned over, blocking out the gray light. He tied his shoe, humming as he worked, looping one massive cable over another. the laces flailing and laying waste to whole swaths of forest. Once the giant had done a proper double knot, the earth stopped shaking. Alex yelled, "Who are you? And why haven't you ever heard of Velcro straps?" I'm not sure where she found the courage to speak. Maybe it was her head injury talking. Me? I was trying to decide if Jack had the power to kill a giant this big. Even if Jack managed to fly up the giant's nose, I doubted his blade would do much more than cause a sneeze, and we didn't want that. The giant straightened and laughed. I wondered if his ears popped when he got that high in the stratosphere. "Hoo-hoo! The green-haired gnat is feisty. My name is Tiny." Now that I looked, I could see the name Tiny embroidered on his bowling shirt, like the distant letters of the Hollywood sign. "Tiny," I said. I didn't think he could possibly hear me any more than I could hear ants having an argument, but he grinned and nodded. "Yes, puny one. The other giants like to tease me because compared to most at Utgard Loki's palace, I am small." Blitzen dusted twigs from his blue jacket. It's got to be an illusion," he muttered to us. "He can't really be that big." Alex touched her bloody forehead. "This isn't an illusion. That shoelace felt pretty real." The giant stretched. "Well, it's a good thing you woke me from my nap. I suppose I should get going." "Hold on," I yelled. "You said you're from Utgard Loki's palace?" "Oh, yes. Utgard Lanes. Will you be heading that way?" Yeah," I said. "We need to see the king." I was hoping Tiny might scoop us up and give us a ride. That seemed to be like a proper thing to do for travelers who'd just had a hit and run with your shoestring. Tiny chuckled. "I don't know how you'd fare at Utgard Lanes. We're a little busy getting ready for the bowling tournament tomorrow. You can't even navigate around the shoestrings. You might get accidentally crushed." "We'll do fine," Alex said again, with a lot more confidence than I could have mustered. "Where's the palace?" "Just over yonder." Tiny waved to the left, causing a new low-pressure front. "Easy 2-minute walk." I tried to translate that from Giantese. I figured that meant the palace was about 7 billion miles away. "You couldn't give us a lift, maybe?" I tried not to sound too pitiful. "Well, now," Tiny said, "I don't really owe you any favors, do I? You'd have to make it over the threshold of the fortress to claim guest privileges. Then we'll have to treat you right." "Here we go," Blitzen grumbled. I remembered how guest rights worked from our last time in Jotunheim. If you made it inside the house and you claimed you were a guest, supposedly the host couldn't kill you. Of course, when we'd tried that before, we ended up slaughtering an entire giant family after they attempted to squash us like bugs, but it had all been done with the utmost courtesy. "Besides," Tiny continued, "if you can't make it to Utgard Lanes yourself, you really shouldn't be there. Most giants are not as easygoing as I am. You need to be more careful, little ones. My larger kin might take you for trespassers or termites or something. Really, I would stay away." I had a terrible vision of Sam and Hearthstone flying into the bowling alley and getting caught in the world's largest bug zapper. "We have to get there," I shouted. "We're meeting 2 friends." Tiny raised his forearm, revealing a Mount Rushmore-sized tattoo of Elvis Presley. The giant scratched his beard, and a single white whisker twirled down like an Apache helicopter and crashed nearby, sending up a mushroom cloud of snow. "Tell you what, then. You carry my bowling bag. That way everyone will know you're a friend. Do me this small service, and I'll vouch for you with Utgard Loki. Try to keep up, but if you do fall behind, make sure you reach the castle by tomorrow morning. That's when the tournament begins." He got to his feet and turned to leave. I had time to admire his scraggly gray man bun and read his giant yellow words embroidered across the back of his shirt, "Tiny's Turkey Bowlers." I wondered if that was the name of his team or maybe his business. I pictured turkeys the size of cathedrals, and I knew they would be haunting my nightmares forever. Then in 2 steps, Tiny disappeared over the horizon. I looked at my friends. What did we just get ourselves into? "Well, good news," Blitzen said. "I found the bag." "Bad news?" "I found the bag." He pointed to a nearby mountain, a sheer dark cliff that rose 500 feet into the wide plateau at the summit. But of course it wasn't a mountain. It was a brown leather bowling bag.